So let's go back to the dark side of time, because I think this is another
Yes,
thing that fascinates me, which is we find something, right? We figure it out before anybody else gets it. We make it work for us, and then the rest of the world catches up. you know? So in that article, you basically said that the Japanese had perfected this art of basically impoverishing themselves by competing so aggressively on time.
true. Uh, having lived and observed Japanese competition for decades, the one thing I've noticed about the Japanese is that they don't argue over a good idea. I go to Europe, I go to the US, and people will argue whether lean makes sense. And they'll argue for years whether lean makes sense. The Japanese will look at it and say, it works for Toyota, it's going to work for me. And they swarm.
Mm-hmm.
Time was an example of swarming.
Mm-hmm.
They all became focused on time, particularly the time it takes to develop new products. And they took the concept beyond the point of usefulness. Mm-hmm. Ted Levitt, a very famous professor of marketing at the Harvard Business School, now deceased, had a great phrase, which is, too much of anything will kill you. And that's true with any strategy. Too much of any strategy will kill you. Mm-hmm. And that's what was happening with time. And the Japanese had gone past the point where time was relevant to consumers. And think about, at least I do, the early days of calculators, where it was all about cost and getting the price of the product down so it could get into more hands. In such effect, you could buy a calculator or a watch in the line at the grocery store. But it reached the point where people didn't care about price anymore. And the winning companies were companies like Casio, who came in and said, no, customers actually want features. And they're willing to pay a few bucks more to get a feature. Mm-hmm. And so people speed past the goalpost and run into the wall.
That's interesting. That's super interesting.
And the dark side was about that. Mm-hmm. And it was a call to action to recognize that don't get over focused on time, mm-hmm. and really don't lose focus on the customer. Mm-hmm. That's why I've been I've really enjoyed watching Amazon and Bezos, because anything people have brought to him about what Amazon should do that's new, he always starts by saying, what's good about this for the customer?
Right.
And he works backwards.
Right. Very, very big principle there.
Holds it almost all strategies is one has to start with a customer and work backwards. Mm-hmm.